Today we are here to tell you about mystery which is unsolved by scientists. In this video we discuss the great structure which is 12,000 years old and being's mystery who made this. Press the subscribe button below and also turn on bell icon for more interesting videos. Because this is Ravnox who is different from every mind. So let's start. In 1994, a German archaeologist was walking through the dusty hills of southeastern Turkey. He was not looking for anything extraordinary. He was not expecting to change history. But when he knelt down and brushed the soil from a carved stone surface, he realized in that single moment that everything humanity believed about its own past was wrong. What he found that day was not just an ancient ruin. It was a message. A message carved in stone by human hands over 11,000 years ago, 7,000 years before the pyramids, 6,000 years before Stonehenge, thousands of years before writing even existed. A message that asked one devastating question: what if civilization did not begin where we thought it did? My name is Ravnox and tonight we go back to the very beginning of human history. Back to a place called Göbekli Tepe, the temple that destroyed history books forever. So let's start the truth, and for which you come to my channel, like and subscribe my channel to see more like this video. The name Göbekli Tepe comes from Turkish. It simply means belly hill. It sits in the mountains of southeastern Turkey, near the ancient city of Sanliurfa, a region known in ancient times as Upper Mesopotamia. For thousands of years, local farmers walked past this hill every single day. They knew something was there. The ground was littered with ancient stones. But nobody realized what was buried beneath their feet. In the 1960s, archaeologists from Istanbul University and the University of Chicago surveyed the site and dismissed it as a medieval cemetery. They walked away. They saw nothing significant. They moved on. For 30 more years it sat there. Ignored. Forgotten. Then in October 1994 a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived. Schmidt had already worked at other ancient sites nearby. He recognized the stones immediately. These were not medieval. These were not random. He began digging. And what came out of the ground over the next 20 years would shatter every textbook ever written about human civilization. The oldest parts of Göbekli Tepe date back to around 10,000 BCE, with construction possibly occurring up to 15,000 years ago. These enormous T-shaped pillars, some reaching heights of 5.5 meters, are the oldest examples of monumental architecture ever discovered. Let that sink in for a moment. 15,000 years ago. When every historian, every textbook, every professor told us that humans at this time were simple hunter-gatherers. Primitive people. Wandering nomads who did not build, did not organize, did not create. They were wrong, because this temple proved all the things wrong, and from there new history created. Spectacularly, completely, historically wrong. Now let us talk about what was actually found here, because this is where history truly breaks down. The most visually striking feature of Göbekli Tepe is its pillars. Many stand several meters tall and weigh up to 16 tons. They are carved from local limestone and arranged in circular or oval enclosures. And the weight of one oilier is about 16 tons. These were not small stones casually placed in the ground. These were massive, precisely carved, carefully arranged monuments built by people who supposedly had no metal tools, no wheels, no organized society. The structures were completed with only the tools available at the time: stone hammers and flint blades, which researchers have found scattered across the site. If you ever think about that. With stone hammers and flint blades they carved pillars weighing 16 tons. They transported them. They raised them. They arranged them in perfect circular formations. How because this is not done by normal people without machineries, and if we see machinery system also found in new era. Modern engineers with cranes and computers struggle to move objects this heavy with precision. These people did it with rocks. On the surfaces of these pillars are detailed reliefs of animals: foxes, snakes, wild boars, vultures, cranes, scorpions, and lions appearing in dynamic poses, some seeming to slither or leap, others staring outward with intense stillness. The carvings are not random decorations, they are carefully composed images. It feels like the animals are giving pose to the cameraman in that time, because these are not cave paintings. These are not scratches in rock. These are sophisticated, detailed, intentional works of art. Created by people science told us were too primitive to create them. And then the discovery that truly broke everything. Researchers uncovered a mysterious human figure deliberately entombed within the ancient walls, a haunting sentinel frozen in stone for over 12,000 years, found embedded horizontally between massive structures. Its deliberate placement suggests it served as a sacred guardian or ritual offering. A guardian. Placed deliberately. With intention. With meaning. These were not animals behaving on instinct. These were human beings thinking, planning, believing, creating. 11,000 years ago. From here the biggest mystery start. Here is where Göbekli Tepe stops being just an archaeological discovery and becomes one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Göbekli Tepe was not destroyed by invaders. It was not abandoned and left to decay. It was deliberately buried, the enclosures carefully filled with rubble and sediment, sealing the pillars underground for millennia. Deliberately buried, they built something monumental, something that took generations of human effort, thousands of hours of labor, extraordinary skill, and planning. And then they buried it. On purpose. Why would you spend decades building the most sophisticated structure in the world and then fill it with dirt? No one knows. After 20 years of excavation, no one has a definitive answer. Was it a religious ritual, a symbolic ending, a deliberate preservation for future generations, or something else entirely, something we cannot even comprehend from our modern perspective? So far only about 10% of the Göbekli Tepe site has been excavated, and it will likely take around 150 years to excavate the full site. Archaeologists estimate there are still 15 more enclosures buried underground, one of which could be up to 15,000 years old. 15 more enclosures. Still buried. Still waiting. What is inside them? What will they tell us when they finally come to light? And perhaps the most earth-shattering question of all, for decades the dominant narrative of human history was simple: first came agriculture, then permanent settlements, then religion, and monumental architecture. Göbekli Tepe flips that sequence entirely. It suggests that large-scale ritual gatherings came first and that the need to support those gatherings may have actually encouraged the development of agriculture. Religion came before farming. Belief came before bread. The human need to connect with something greater than ourselves that came first. That drove everything else. That is what Göbekli Tepe is telling us. Now I want you to stop for a moment. Because what we have just discussed is not simply an interesting archaeological story. This changes everything we understand about ourselves. For 200 years science told us a story about human history. It went like this: primitive humans evolved slowly. They were simple. They were basic. Civilization was a recent invention, maybe 5,000 years old. Before that, there was nothing. Göbekli Tepe proves that story is wrong. The communities that built the monumental megalithic structures of Göbekli Tepe lived during one of the most momentous transitions in human history, demonstrating creative human genius of early societies that fundamentally challenges what we believed about the development of complex civilizations. 11,000 years ago humans organized themselves. They planned together. They built together. They believed together. They created art together. They were not primitive. They were not simple. They were us. And this raises a question that keeps archaeologists awake at night. If there was a civilization this sophisticated 11,000 years ago, what came before it? Overall, 12 excavation sites in the area have now been listed as part of a government project revealing a vast and sophisticated culture now thought to have begun around 12,000 years ago, long before civilization was thought to exist. 12 sites, all from the same era. All showing the same level of sophistication. This was not a single accident of history. This was a civilization. A lost civilization. And we are only just beginning to find it. Göbekli Tepe sits on a hill in Turkey today, partially excavated, partially protected, partially still a mystery. Every year new things come out of the ground. Every year our understanding of human history gets a little more complicated. Göbekli Tepe is not a solved mystery. It is an ongoing conversation between the present and the deep past. It reminds us that history is not static, it is layered, complex, and occasionally surprising. The ancient builders of Göbekli Tepe left no names. They left no written records. They left no explanation. They simply built something magnificent, something that spoke across 11,000 years of silence and said, "We were here. We thought. We believed. We created. Remember us." If this documentary made you see human history differently, share it with one person who needs to hear this story. And if you want to go deeper, our next video asks an even bigger question: what happened to the civilization that built Göbekli Tepe and why did they disappear? If this video goes 1 million views, next part will be there. Subscribe and I will see you there. Tell me in comments for next video on which topic you wanna see.